What if an empire grew not with the clash of swords and the roar of cannons, but in a profound, unnerving silence? Imagine a power so subtle, so insidious, that it reshaped the world map without anyone noticing, until it was far too late. This is the story of the Lavic Expansion, a silent conquest that whispers through the corridors of history. Unlike the brazen conquests of Alexander or the thunderous marches of the Roman legions, the Lavic Expansion wasn't about open warfare. It was a masterpiece of strategy, diplomacy, and influence. While other empires blazed trails of fire and destruction, the Lavic leaders were playing a different game entirely. They quietly absorbed neighboring lands, subtly reshaping borders, cultures, and the very fabric of power, all behind the scenes. This wasn't a war fought on battlefields, but in the minds of kings and the hearts of common folk. So how did they do it? It began with moves so small they were almost invisible. First, they gained control of vital trade routes. Lavic merchants, seemingly independent, would offer irresistible deals, creating economic dependency. Goods flowed, but so did ideas and influence. Next came the alliances. They didn't demand tribute. They offered protection, stability, and prosperity. A neighboring kingdom facing a famine would receive grain. A city-state threatened by barbarians would find Lavic patrols quietly securing its borders. These weren't acts of charity. They were investments in future loyalty. Slowly, systematically, they would install loyal governors and advisors. A Lavic diplomat would suggest a more efficient administrator for a struggling province. A Lavic scholar would be invited to tutor a young prince. These individuals weren't conquerors. They were cogs in a silent machine. Cities and territories didn't fall to Lavic armies through sieges and destruction. They drifted into the Lavic sphere of influence through quiet persuasion and economic necessity. By the time rival powers even began to suspect something was amiss, Lavic's grip was already an unbreakable iron fist wrapped in a velvet glove. The population was content, the local lords were embedded, and the transition of power was a mere formality. The true genius of the Lavic Expansion lay in its cold, methodical approach. Every single decision was calculated, every move part of a grand, multi-generational strategy. This was not passive expansion. It was precision warfare of the mind. An extensive network of spies, disguised as merchants, travelers, and even priests, gathered exhaustive intelligence. They knew the rival king's favorite wine, the general's gambling debts, and the populace's deepest grievances. This information wasn't used for blackmail in the traditional sense, but to craft perfectly tailored solutions that always benefited Lavic in the end. Merchants did more than just trade goods. They were cultural ambassadors, spreading ideas and narratives favorable to Lavic. They told stories of the peace and prosperity within the Lavic domain, contrasting it with the chaos outside. Diplomats brokered deals that seemed entirely benign on the surface: trade agreements, cultural exchanges, mutual defense pacts. But each treaty contained subtle clauses, each agreement a hidden lever that slowly, inexorably, tilted the balance of power in Lavic's favor. They understood that true, lasting conquest wasn't about dominating bodies, but about winning hearts and minds, often without the subjects even realizing they were being won over. Let's look at a classic example: the annexation of the Rhydian Valley. The valley was a patchwork of squabbling city-states, rich in resources, but politically fractured. The Lavic Empire didn't send in a single soldier. Instead, they first funded the construction of a major bridge, a supposed act of goodwill to improve trade for everyone. The project brought in Lavic engineers and laborers who stayed and integrated. Then, they offered low-interest loans to the city-state leaders, who were constantly in debt from their petty wars. Soon, the entire valley's economy was dependent on Lavic finance. When a dispute inevitably arose between two cities, a Lavic arbitrator was invited to mediate. The solution, of course, was a unified administration under a governor trained and appointed by Lavic to ensure peace and stability. The valley was absorbed without a single drop of blood being shed. This pattern was repeated across dozens of territories. They were masters of creating problems they could then solve. They would subtly fund pirates on a trade route, only to later offer their navy to patrol and secure it. They would learn of a succession crisis in a neighboring kingdom and quietly back the weakest candidate, knowing he would be dependent on their support to rule. It was a brilliant, terrifyingly effective strategy that left their rivals perpetually off balance, fighting shadows while the real threat was already inside their walls. And what is the legacy of this silent empire? Look around you. The remnants of the Lavic Expansion are hidden in plain sight, woven into the very DNA of the modern world. Those ancient roads that still connect our cities? Many were originally Lavic trade corridors. The cultural customs and legal principles we take for granted, they often trace their roots back to the systems put in place to ensure smooth, quiet Lavic domination. Their influence is like a ghost, an echo in our architecture, our language, and our political systems. They prove that the most profound and lasting conquests are not always the loudest. Some empires don't need to shout their arrival. They rise in whispers, and their dominion is all the more complete for it. The story of Lavic teaches us a crucial lesson. Power is not always about what you can take by force, but what you can be given willingly. If you're fascinated by the hidden strategies of history and the secret machinations that shape our world, then you've found the right place. Hit that subscribe button and ring the bell to join us. We're just getting started on uncovering the untold stories of silent empires and secret conquests. Thanks for watching.